All right. Welcome, everyone, to session number 2 of our FinOps Summer Camp. Hope everyone is doing well today. And today we're talking about everything AI cost observability. And if you missed session 1, where Ben sat down with Gene Atelsek of 451 Research to cover some of the most recent research and data that they have, you should have been sent that recording. But if not, or if you missed it, that is up on our blog as well. So you can catch the replay and some of the top takeaways from our last session. But today we got another great session in store for you. We are sitting down with the team over at Make, and they're going to walk us through how their platform team runs AI across a large automation product. So with that said, let me actually introduce our presenters today. And we'll start off with Ben. Ben Schaechter is the CEO and co-founder of Vantage. If you missed my intro for him last session, or you missed last session, I'll give a quick intro again. So he does sit on the board of the FinOps Foundation. And of course, being the CEO and running Vantage, he thinks about AI, cloud cost, and observability all the time. And before Vantage, he also built cloud infrastructure products at AWS and DigitalOcean. So he definitely knows a thing or two about this stuff. Ben, anything else that I missed? Anything you want to add?
No, looking forward to this webinar. I got a preview of it a week ago. And so I'm excited for the topics. It's a really great presentation. And thank you everyone for spending some more time with us for this week. But otherwise, yeah, we can move along to the other intros.
Very good. All right, first off, on the Make side, we have Lukáš Pokorný, and he is an engineering manager at Make, and he leads the cloud infrastructure team with a focus on FinOps and AI and automation and cloud infrastructure. And he's had a lot of hands-on experience governing cloud spend across AWS and multi-cloud environments and implementing FinOps principles to optimize costs and drive smarter cost decisions. Lukáš, anything else to add? Anything that I missed?
Hey, thanks, Brandon. I don't think so. Thank you very much for introduction and that I can be here.
Very good. And then we also have Martin Cangár, and he's one of those that I've learned has had a nickname since childhood that has stuck with him. He goes by Singy. So Singy is a senior cloud ops engineer at Make with deep expertise in public cloud platforms and system deployments across telecommunications and enterprise environments. And his current role, he develops automations for cloud ops teams and is helping drive FinOps implementations to optimize cloud spend and cost visibility. Singy, welcome. And anything else that people should know about you?
No, thanks. Yeah, I think you covered everything, so it needed to be said.
Very good. All right. With that said, we'll do a quick overview of the agenda today, and then we'll hand it off over to the Make team, and they'll go over some of their frameworks and playbooks. So we are, of course, starting off with some housekeeping. We'll go over the cost observability framework and then some playbooks. And Martin, Singy, and Lukáš are going to walk us through that. We'll save some Q&A for the end, and then we'll close and tell you about the next session that we have. So quick housekeeping. Yes, this is being recorded. You will be sent the recording, and we are also going to publish it on our blog along with some of the top takeaways. So look out for that tomorrow. And we also will take questions at the end, but you don't have to save them for the end. Put them into the Q&A box here, the Q&A module within the Zoom webinar platform. Now, make sure you're using the Q&A module, not the chat. It's possible I might miss the chat, but if you want to make sure your questions get seen, definitely use the actual Q&A module itself. Okay, so with that said, I'm going to stop sharing, and then I will let Lukáš pull up his screen, and he's got a great presentation for us. Lukáš, Singy, take it away.
So thank you very much, Brandon. So here we go. So you already heard what we are, what we do at Make, but maybe like a short introduction about Make. and why we do what we do. So Make is a no-code AI automation platform. So it means that you can build, automate the workflows, AI agents together. And the most important thing, you can build with speed and with control. So you've got really observability what you are running on, especially in nowadays. This is really important for AI and agentic things. And why I am starting with this highlight, because if we are saying that we want to be AI first company, it means that we need to live the same story. We need to live with AI tools. We need to understand the AI tools. And together with that, we need to understand even their cost. So it is exactly why we start to focus as a part of our team for like AI cost optimization and how to track that. We now use a lot of tools. I will jump into it a bit later. And I can highlight that we were aware from the beginning about our spend. We were tracking it in each tool separately in some G sheet. And, you can imagine the pain. Right. So let's continue. So what happened? Let's say last 1 year. Last year, as we see that we want to be as an AI first company, we introduced internal program for all of us makers, to be AI handy people. Others, I would say. It means that we really need to understand how AI tools we can use for our work, but not only randomly, but really know what we are doing. So we introduce like AI adoption program called Minerva, and there we guide people through workshop experience, to sharing knowledge, to understand the best practices. We established AI guild, which would bring to our company like best practices of AI, what is known for now, because we are now living really in a revolution of the IT, and it is something what we are still figuring out. How to be secure, how to be safe, and how to measure all these things. So here you can see, like from January, it is only in percentage the growth, because we are not sharing here the real costs. But you can see that we grow from January 8.7 times. It means not only like adoption, how we use tools, which we've got another tools to measuring it as a DX, for example, when we are measuring how much code is written by AI, how it is secured, which speed or length of PRs and other metrics which are really important for AI adoption. But we can see the AI adoption inside of the company, even on the spend. What the challenge bring us, as I mentioned, we've got several the AI providers, mostly included by Anthropic, which we had on API and later enterprise level, AWS Bedrock, Cursor, GitHub Copilot, and OpenAI. We use as well Gemini because we run on Google platform, but this is not for like developers, not for engineering used so often. So what was the problem? As I mentioned in the beginning, we had to really G sheet when we were tracking all the spend there. And we tried to use, some API to get the data from each tool. But yeah, it wasn't what we would like to expect. And the other challenges was there, that we had some preliminary budget for AI, but budget is created in the end of the last year, and you saw the growth in the first 6 months. So we knew that this budget will be not accurate, but we had no data. We had some similar data from other companies, but each company is really specific, and usage of each tool is different. So in this with mind, we try to track at least somehow, but we feel that we need to bring all these things into one place. And especially, for example, that AWS Bedrock is part of the whole AWS invoice, and we need to separate our budgets for AWS infrastructure, for example, for marketplace, and AWS Bedrock, which is as well used mostly by our end users. So it means in our product, and is again differently built inside the company, and the process is different. So therefore, we start this leveraging Vantage for it. And thanks, Vantage, for that. So a small commercial, but really that all these tools, we don't need to use some our built solution, but all these things was already created by Vantage, and we just integrate it. So I hand over to Tsingy.
Yeah. Okay. So once we got like everything integrated, we were like thinking how to like make it make the dashboards or make use of the data which we see there, and especially like since beginning we got some questions from our engineers that they would like to have some visibility in the costs and like what providers or what the AI providers do. They are providing you with some metadata or with some text, but every provider is using different tags and like different metadata, or some do not provide you any. So what we were like get used to for the other things in Vantage were the virtual tags. So that's why we were thinking, okay, let's try to use it also here. So we looked at the data or the tags which the providers are giving to us, and we were just trying to use those instead of trying to figure out like some complicated things, how to map the request or the data to specific engineers. So it was quite good for us that as our engineers are using the Anthropic, so the cloud code and the other like cloud tools now, like workflows and design and so on, and they are also using Cursor. So Anthropic and Cursor are already providing you with some text. So in case of Anthropic, it's a user email. In case of Cursor, the tag is called user. And what we did, we created just a virtual tag called AI user, where we mapped those tags coming from the providers. And it was very simple, and it gave an option to engineers, like simply create a dashboard to see their costs for that specific tool. Why we wanted to give them this possibility is that like the costs can rise quite quickly. You can move with like some longer prompt or some prompt or something what you want to check more of the code. You can spend quite a lot of tokens. So it's good to see for the engineer. It's good to see how he's like spending. So now at the moment, engineers can create their own dashboards. They can send out their reports, and for them it's quite easy because they can use this virtual tag. They don't need to think about it. For Anthropic, I need to use this tag. For Cursor, I need to use the other tag. So at the moment we have this like virtual tech in place, and engineers can create the dashboards. And what we are planning, or what engineers can do, like in future, they can set up some cost alerts. So in case there will be like some budget set, which is something what Lukáš will be probably mentioning later, that we are still working on the budgets for the tooling. But yeah, these tags are giving the opportunity for engineers to create their dashboards, alerts, and like monitors.
One thing to note on the last slide too. I'll just say that the use case that Make is showing here is something that we're just seeing kind of like across the industry right now, where step one is getting kind of like a uniform tagging or allocation that's done on a per user basis. And then what we're starting to see too is organizations that will then use that base, in this case, AI user tag, start mapping that to like org charts so they can see token spent by not only the specific engineer, but they can see it by engineering group 1 versus engineering group 2, build like a nested hierarchy for basically mapping to their org chart. And then making sure that they're, looking at those costs, number one, and then ultimately, as you mentioned, like set budgets and actually put into place like governance on which models people can choose as well for actually saving costs, which I know that we'll get into here in a bit. But that I just call this out. This is like the number one thing we're hearing in the industry, and very much tracks with that the growth of what you have from like a cost perspective at Make.
Yeah, that's also one thing I was looking at, for example, to create a virtual tags, not only for users, but also for teams. But as in the AI tools, you are not able to create like separate tags, which can be then propagated to the billing data. So I was thinking like about some automation which will exactly check the org chart and then create virtual tags and assign the users to it. So yeah, that's also one of the options where we can leverage our tool for the automation with the things which with the virtual tags which Vantage is providing to us. Yeah. Yeah, so there is also one another thing to to Vantage, which is not really related to cost, but what is nice to see there, and it's about the error and aborted requests. So for example, if an engineer aborts some prompt or some processing of the AI tooling, then these costs are not being billed, but it means that, for example, it happened also to me that I see that the AI is like turning or starting to drift from the original purpose I gave it or original task I gave it. So I stop it. And in some cases, it's considered as aborted generation or error generation. And especially in Cursor, you are able to see these costs or these requests, and you are able to filter them in Vantage. And this is this is quite a nice thing, which can show you, for example, how many requests are or it can tell you something about how people are using or how people are adopting the AI use. So for example, if you see that the percentage of the aborted and errored costs or error generation is high, it means that people are struggling with the work with the AI, probably with like prompting them or writing some good prompts which will give them the results which they want. So that's also something what can then show to the company that there is probably some education needed for the people to know how to write proper prompts or how to work with the AI. So for example, in our case, we see that the overall like of these error and aborted costs are around 0.3%, which means that it can tell us that like our AI adoption is quite good. That usually it happens to me when I see the AI drifting like away from the task. It happens to me like once in 2 weeks. So that's quite, I think for us, I think 0.3% is quite good number. Yeah, then something what we saw and where also Vantage was quite helpful was that when we started with Claude, we had API billing in place. So everyone who had an account was able to create an API key and then authenticate and use the API key for the billing. Then after some time, when we saw that the cloud usage is growing, the company decided to move to enterprise billing. So what we needed to do is once we moved to the enterprise billing, we needed to do some changes in the Vantage because some data for the API billing is provided a bit differently. So in API billing, you don't have the usernames, but you have the API keys. And for enterprise billing, you have the APIs. You have the emails. So I think for enterprise billing, you can better filter out on the user level, because for the API keys you can name the API key the way like you want. So at that time when we had used the API billing, it was quite difficult to map the API key to specific person. So what we needed to do once we migrated was we needed to rebuild some of the dashboards which we had in Vantage, which wasn't so difficult, but what we were able to build and see in Vantage was the cost savings which we got when we moved from the API billing to enterprise billing. So that was also good for our management to showcase or to show that moving from API billing to enterprise is saving us some of the costs.
Yeah, thanks, Tingy. Exactly. And, can imagine that at the same time, all these interesting things are bringing you challenges. So from the beginning, we want to even set up some anomaly alerts via Slack or emails, at least from the beginning, to understand, hey, if there is something happening in AI spend, we want to see, and not only to be notified from each tool differently, but have all tools in one place. And we hit the challenge that not all providers, for example, Anthropic, is providing via API real-time data, and it's usually delayed by a day or two. It depends. So we try to find out the way how it can be live, but for now we can see that checks can be really needs to be done only on Anthropic layer. But at the same time, for example, for Cursor, you can see it quite live. So it's really important, as Cindy already mentioned, for our engineer to see, hey, I am spending this amount of money, or there's a usage this big on my project, on this one session, to understand, hey, what I can do better, how I can this do better, that I can still utilize AI and still we will be within budget. So how we can see that it's important for us, because we've got some preliminary budget, let's say what we can see from Grow for now per our engineers. And we need to have the dashboard for them. We need to have better understanding how to AI cost make better. And as Cindy mentioned, one is really to have dashboard, for example, in Vantage. Each engineer can implement some checks. Hey, where am I in that day, for example? And at the same time, we just now running the POC of AI Gateway Bifrost. As well, how better we can utilize the models from different providers, what we got. And at the same time, it brings to better visibility on that.
Yeah, there's one other thing too that I was going to call out here as it relates to like data freshness, where the hyperscalers had kind of taught us for ages that you couldn't rely on the latest data and you had to wait a day or two for AWS to republish this. And all of these AI providers have completely flipped that model on its head, which is great. And for each provider now on Vantage, we're beginning to do the work where we can allow customers to set a syncing schedule specifically for these use cases where it's like, hey, I need up to the minute data for something like Claude or Cursor or things along those lines, because I need to catch like anomalous spend or make sure that there's a budget set in place. Whereas, if you try and refresh AWS at that rate, you can't, right? Like you have to rely on them to actually publish this every 6 to 7 hours. So AI is also just changing what's possible with some of these features and functionality. And I think that's where the world is going to, with being able to set dynamic budgets and spend limits specifically so you can catch this on like a finer granularity window. But I know that you are about to share some other things here, so I'll let you keep moving as it relates to kind of like developer observability of costs.
Thanks, Ben. Yep, I agree with you. Exactly. It's my next slide. Because to be honest, even you bring another tool to the house and you are the engineer, you are focusing on developing, on coding, and you don't want to go to another tool. You want to reach it somehow easily. So we were thinking, hey, how we can bring like this observability to our engineers on the place where they are like every day, without sending another notification on Slack immediately, like something, hey, morning, you spent this amount of money. It will be definitely mute. So we are thinking, hey, somewhere, and in our company, we use Backstage. It means it's really Backstage where we track like our open requests. We got the service templates. Where we got all connection. It's like our source of truth or with documentation. So it's like a place where engineer definitely go every day. So we were thinking, okay, to bring this observability to engineer means, hey, let's develop something in the house using API for that. So it will be showing engineer, hey, you got the budget for now for Claude and Cursor, and it will be really every day when you log into Backstage, you will see that. And it's like important, when you understand the cost, then you can behave differently. At the same time, the budget, what you can see, it's not our real budget. As Cindy mentioned, we got now data, let's say after a year, and senior leadership is preparing some budget. And at the same time, we don't want to like freeze hands of engineers on AI. So we need to find really this right balance and educate our people how we can use AI and token spend better. Therefore, in the beginning, I mentioned, for example, we got AI Guild there, which exactly is focusing on these kind of things. And we got our summaries, which we call AI summaries, for each department, which are bringing the knowledge of AI to each department. We can ask them, we can utilize them for optimization, we can utilize them for supporting us in knowledge, in AI adoption. So we are looking on this from a different perspective to make sure that we are really following what we can in actual state, at the same time bring to the engineer to their computers really observability for AI spend. Cindy, you're on mute.
Sorry. Yeah, maybe just one thing to Backstage, as Lukáš was mentioning, why we chose Backstage. It's because it's the tool which engineers are using every day, because one of the things which we have implemented there are the CI/CD pipeline. So every time when they are like releasing something, where we are releasing several times a day, they are logging to Backstage. So it's place which they are using. And another thing, just to show like how we are adopting the AI. So the plugin to the Backstage, which is showing the costs, was written by Lukáš. And as he's a manager and not an engineer, he was able to like use the AI to like create something which is like working. So
Yeah,
that
that's
was
true.
also
Another experience. I never did anything like UI connected. So yeah, it's some one way how AI can empower you.
yeah. So what we learned from all this when we got this like huge growth in the AI cost, and what we from what we know now, and what we think we would do differently in case we would need to start again, and this might help any of you if you are starting with it. There are like few things which I think we would start off. One is to set some tagging policies or tagging conventions, so that you would be able then to, and it doesn't relates only to AI costs but to all the costs. If you have a proper tagging policies, then you are able to make the dashboards or make the visibility in the costs like easy. You can do like you can create also these virtual tags, or then try to retrofit some of the tags. But if you don't have like the tags in AWS core reports, it's then you are dependent on the virtual tags. Another thing related like to some naming convention is, and that's what we are seeing also now with OpenAI, where you are not provided with like some username details or something like that, is that we would apply some naming convention for the API tokens, because that's one of the data or metadata which is provided to the billing. So if you have like some naming convention also for the API tokens, then it would be easier for you to, let's say, create some virtual tags for some specific teams or for regions and so on. So that's also one of the things which I think we would be doing differently, and this is also something what we are trying now to apply like for future. Then another thing is when we started with Bedrock. Maybe if you can go back, Lukáš. So yeah, we would like to create a Bedrock dashboards, or not only Bedrock dashboard, but dashboard for every tool like sooner. So, and especially as Bedrock is part of AWS, and it's hidden in the AWS bill, and seeing also this within the dashboard and AI costs would be better. And we saw it just last week when some new feature was introduced in the Bedrock, and we saw that our costs for Bedrock increased like 4 times. And we just got alerted, and that's another thing that it's good to have the cost alert turned on since beginning. And that's something what helped us, for example, for the Bedrock, that like we got an alert from Vantage that the costs, like for day-to-day costs for Bedrock increased like quite heavily. When we are looking month-to-month difference now, we are like paying for Bedrock. I think it's 4 or 5 times more than we were paying last month, and it was just because of introduction of of some new service. So that is also good thing to have the alerting, even if you don't have everything configured, all the dashboards, everything properly. But if you have some alerting, it can like alert you sooner than at the end of the month or at the time when you get a bill.
There's on the Bedrock case, and I think there was a question in the comments on this too, but the second point there where there's private preview and Vantage, I'm sure everyone has experienced this where Bedrock just shows up as like a line item on the AWS bill. You can't see what's behind it unless you have the actual invocation logs. And so as this slide mentions, I believe this is going generally available in the next couple of weeks, but we have the ability to ingest those invocation logs. And then whenever you invoke, make an invocation via Bedrock, there is a field called request metadata, which is basically like your cost allocation tags that you can do for Bedrock. And then those are just natively exposed in Vantage as basically virtual tags or cost allocation tags, if you're familiar with that. So anyway, it allows you to kind of like unpack all sorts of things. You can attribute calls by service, user, function of the company. Kind of like it's up to you to attribute it. But once you do, you would natively have that available. That same set of logic is being applied basically to like every single AI gateway as well, just to call it out. But anyway, I think it's like a really good call out though.
Yeah. I know one thing, if we are talking about Bedrock, what our engineering implemented just last week when we saw this huge increase in the cost, they implemented per request metadata tagging in Bedrock, which is possible. So now they are tagging every request. So then we would be able to see either if it would be available to this in Vantage or in CloudWatch or somewhere within AWS. It will again give us a bit more visibility in the requests which are invoking the costs. Yeah. And what helped us like to get the visibility to AI costs, at least some visibility which we would not have if we would still use the sheets. So there are a few things which helped us to get where we are now. Was that most except like Gemini, so most of the AI tools which we are using have native integration in Vantage. So we didn't need to invent some like custom provider and bring in data with some custom optimization and script. So that was quite huge help. And especially I think now in Bedrock and Cursor, this is very helpful. And another thing was for as I was mentioning in the beginning, where these vendor tags, so the user tags from Cursor and and Anthropic, where we were easily able to match it to one virtual tag. And another thing was that we don't have, like Lukáš was mentioning, at the moment, we still don't have budget configure, but we were not thinking about one big budget for all the AI tooling, but we would like to split the budgets like per tooling, because different tools are being used for different use cases. So in case you would have just one huge AI budget, it would be difficult for you to see like what's the biggest consumer of the budget. So it's good to have like budget per let's say, AI. And that's something what we would like to have. And I think it was seen also in the slide where Lukáš was mentioning that we would like to have a budget for Cursor, budget for AI, for Anthropic, or for Claude.
Yeah, only small clarification here. The budget means like per engineer. We can set up preliminary. Each engineer can see it in Claude. He knows that, and if he hit, he need to request more. So, but this is something what we are still tuning. And let's continue as we are short on time. I would like only wrap up like with a short playbook. You can see we mentioned what we already do at Thingy, wrap it up. So I would like focus only like from the 5 and it is really that we need to following FinOps principle and revisit budgets and everything what we do. We need to operate. We need to do it visible for all our engineers, leadership, to get understanding for proper decision with data. It is something what never ends. And it is exactly why, for example, our team is here in May for it. So, yep. Last slide is the questions, but Brandon, if you want to read this one.
Yes, we got a few questions in the Q&A box here. Again, put your questions in the Q&A box. We'll try to get through a few of these really quick. If we don't get to all of them, we'll follow up with you. But okay, first question here from Benjamin. Any advice on AI token anomaly detection? So Ben, you wanna cover this one first? AI token anomaly detection.
Yeah, we lightly answered this kind of in the presentation, but I think there's like 2 parts to this. The first is you need to be refreshing the data at a much quicker rate for all of these AI providers. And then the second part of this really comes down to like allocation, like the what was shared in the presentation about you have this generic AWS Bedrock bill. Anomaly detection can work on that, but you kind of want to see down to which developer was driving this, which part of the organization, or if you have that request metadata or some sort of labeling that's done on the actual invocation, you're going to get much better anomaly detection, budget enforcement, granularity than this generic bill. And so I think there's kind of 2 parts to this. We're trying to help. I mean, this is not like a formal pitch, but like we're trying to help with 2 parts of this. The first one is like increasing the rate at which we refresh that data, and then 2 is ingesting those invocation logs so you can actually do more fine-grained granularity of anomaly detection. But outside of that, the actual system for detecting them and alerting on them is largely the same from our perspective.
Very good. All right, let's go on to the next question really quick here. This one's from Gene. Gene Adelsek, great to see you on the webinar here, Gene. Okay, question, and maybe we'll start with you, Lukáš, on this one. Which of the 5 providers makes it easiest to pull/ingest data for cost observability? Which makes it the hardest? From your experience, Lukáš, any thoughts there?
To be honest, like for now, as we speak about ingestion, all these with Vantage, it was quite easy to use. Maybe it's you can comment then, but for example, we see one challenge for codecs, which is not like really easily to be connected somewhere, and we know that once we will need to have it, and we cannot to pull even data via API to have understanding actually how big usage is in codecs. So yeah, it is one of the things which will be challenging if codecs there will be no change. But as been mentioned, I believe that all these things are evolving, and we will have even those data once really in real time.
Very good. Ben, anything you want to add to that?
No, I'll just say like in general, most of the AI providers are able to deliver data much faster. And if you have the invocation logs that you're storing either on your own system, theoretically, you can grant a vendor like Vantage access to an S3 bucket or stream them or whatever the method is to get that data going, which is just different from a lot of the traditional SaaS or cloud providers, which is good. I think it really does come back to the next step of the problem, which is like once you have all of that, you need to go through where you're actually invoking or making the calls and making sure that you're attributing those calls accordingly so you can actually make sense of the underlying data. So it kind of like ping pongs back to the actual allocation and attribution within the code. Or for developers, most of that stuff comes through from like the Cursor APIs or the Claude APIs. But I'll just say this entire space, it's like changing every single week, where like every week there's a new provider that's like, here's spend limits, or here's our budget support, or here's actual billing APIs, of which I know at least a few more coming in the next week or two. So it's all rapidly evolving.
Yep. Very good. All right. Well, that'll do for today. With that said, let me just wrap up by saying thank you, everyone, for joining us today. And I'll start with Lukáš and Singi. If people want to learn more about Make and want to connect with you two personally, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, we are on LinkedIn, so feel free to find us. And with Make, just go to make.com and you can try it by yourself. I believe that you can find out a lot of opportunities, how you can automate, how leverage AI for your things. And as Tsingy mentioned as well, we are even heavily using it internally for a lot of our processes. So just try it. Just let's do it.
Love that. All right. And Ben, if people want to learn more about Vantage and connect with you personally, what's the best way to do that?
Same answer. I'm LinkedIn. I was actually very impressed after the last webinar. I got a ton of LinkedIn connections. So feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, or www.vantage.sh is our homepage if you'd like to learn more on that front. But otherwise, appreciate all the engagement and all the people who joined. I was keeping an eye on the participant list, and it looks like we have a good set of folks.
Yep, exactly. And again, this is session 2 of 4. And next week, we have another great session coming up. And it's with someone from our product team, Ron Bauman. And it's going to be all about managing AI budgets in the age of token maxing. And this is something that I think everyone's been thinking about right now, right? So that will be next week. We'll go back to our original time, which is going to be 1 p.m. Eastern, and that'll be the time for the last 2 sessions. All right, everyone, thank you so much again for joining us today. We are going to send out the replay for this and also publish it on our blog, so keep your eye out there if you want to kind of revisit any highlights. Other than that, have a great rest of your day, and we will see you next time.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Ciao.
Thanks. Cheers.
Thanks. See ya. Bye.